Hey guys, this is Gene here, and I'm back with another story out of the Old Testament that I hope will encourage you and challenge you and give you something to think about today as you're at home or maybe at work, and we're all still dealing with the craziness of what the coronavirus is doing. So this story comes out of 1 Kings chapter 17. And in 1 Kings chapter 17, we meet a man by the name of Elijah. He's one of the great prophets of the Old Testament, and he's an interesting character. When he shows up with a bang, all right? When he comes on the scene, God tells him, he says, Elijah, I want you to go tell the king that by your word and your word alone, it is not going to rain for 3 years. I want you to pray and no rain for 3 years. Now, that's a big deal because that's going to create a famine. Now, if you wonder why God decided to tell Israel no rain, no food, it's because Israel had been turning to worship fertility gods, okay? And these involve some very immoral practices when you worshiped them and hope that you would, get the gods to play around in the sky, just in case the kids are watching, do some crazy things up in heaven, and that would make it rain and make cattle have babies and crops grow and all this kind of stuff, right? Terrible practice, but that's what they're hoping for. So God says, if that's what you're going to trust in, I'm going to take it away from you. Understand that it's not going to rain for 3 years, so you know that you live by what I give you, that I'm your provider. So Elijah does this, and then God tells Elijah, all right, now it's time for you. You need to take off. I've commanded a widow in Zarephath to take care of you. So this widow is going to feed you and provide for you. So you need to go to her during this famine. And so Elijah does. And it's kind of weird that he says, I've commanded a widow to take care of you. Because when Elijah shows up, the widow doesn't go like, oh, I've been expecting you. No. She's walking to her house with the last bit of flour and the last bit of oil that she has to make one last cake of bread so that she and her son can eat and then die. Because there's no food, she's got no money, she has no hope. They're just gonna have their last meal. And so Elijah says to her, he says, look, don't be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do what it is that you have in mind to do, but first make me some food. Now, that's a pretty audacious thing to do for the prophet to go, now, I know you get ready to make one meal for you and your kid, but no, we're not going ladies and kids first. We're going prophet first. So make me something to eat, and then you guys can, eat what's left over, right? It sounds kind of crazy. But Elijah says something a little bit more. He says, understand that if you do this, God says that your flour will not run out, and your oil jar will never go dry. Just trust me on this. And so the woman decides that, well, what else does she have to do? All right, maybe she figures either way she's going to die, or maybe she just figures, this is, we'll give it a shot and see what God does. So she bakes a cake for Elijah and then for her son. And what God says, or what God promised her, comes true. During the famine, she had flour and oil, and she was able to feed her kids, or feed her son and feed herself. Now, I want to make a quick point here. What's interesting is she found life in sacrifice. Like for her, she gained life by sacrificing the thing that she was going to hold on to keep her life. And I would like to think that a simple message for us is that our life is not found in the things that we possess. It's found in the sacrifices that we make out of faith to God. That life is not found in the abundance of the things in my pantry. Life is not found in the abundance of the money in my checking account or savings account. Life is found in the things that I sacrifice to God. And the reason life is found there is because when I sacrifice things to God that I think matter, it means that I trust Him and that I have faith in Him. And if I have faith in God, I know that God is going to provide. And so there's nothing to fear. In this time, when things start drying up, when money starts going away, or the jobs start disappearing, one of the things we may be tempted to do is to hoard. We may be tempted to gather around us all the things to make sure that we have all that we need because we need this to survive. And I want to encourage you to think about sacrifice in this time. That maybe the time where scarcity is seeming to be the theme of the hour. That sacrifice could take its place. That rather than hoarding, we focus on giving. Then rather than thinking about making sure that we have all that we have, that we think about making sure that everybody has all that they have. And we do this because we trust that God is going to make sure that we're taken care of. And so rather than trying to cling to everything to keep life, let's not be afraid to give things away. Because true life is found in that sacrifice. If you cling to things, it means you're afraid to lose them. And if you're afraid to lose them, it means your security is in them. And it means you're going to worry. If you're willing to give things up, it means that you trust God, and what worry do you have? You know that He'll take care of you. Life is not found in the things we possess. Life is found in faithful sacrifice. So I'm going to encourage you to think about that in this crazy time where fear may reign and where we may think about hoarding. Let's not be afraid to give things up, to show that, you know what? We know that even if we take the last bit of flour and oil we have to make one little piece of bread for somebody, then we come back, God's going to make sure there's something else there. Life doesn't come from the things we possess. It comes from sacrifice through faith. Let me pray for you. God, I thank you for today. I thank you for the gifts that you've given us. God, I pray that in this time, Father, that we would trust you. And God, that in a time where we may get close-fisted because we're worried about running out of things, God, that we'd actually become more open-handed. Lord, knowing that we can give because, one, we want to love our neighbor, but two, because we know that what we give to you, you will provide, that you will take care of us. And so help us to have the resolve of the widow who made just a simple act of faith and gave what she had that was everything to her, just to see what you would do. And in this time, may we have that heart of sacrifice, that we would give and not worry about what we're going to have or not have, knowing that if we faithfully sacrifice to you, you're going to bring it all together. God, we thank you for your love and your grace, and most of all, we thank you for your Son, Jesus, in whom we have all things. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. You guys be blessed.